A reporter for a large conservative news publication reached out to me a couple months ago now, wanting to do a story on late diagnosed level 1 female autism. I didn't immediately want to participate because when she reached out, the premise was they're exploring whether or not this is being overdiagnosed. So, of course, right off the bat, my concerns were like, oh, this is going to be super biased, and I don't know if I want to participate in that. But then I prayed about it and thought, if anything, this is going to be maybe a great opportunity to educate or offer some insight to someone who thinks about this issue in a certain way that might think about it in a new way now. So I responded back and said, yes, I would love to have this conversation with you. Can you send me the questions ahead of time? Just so you know, if you're going to be interviewing other autistic people, we're going to want the questions ahead of time because we don't process super fast. And formulating answers at conversation speed is really difficult for us. So she said, sure. She sent me over the questions a couple hours ahead of time. I had time to really look through them, flesh out my answers. I wrote everything down so that as we're talking, I could read if I needed to. And then she called and we actually ended up having a fantastic conversation. I was pleasantly surprised. So it's been a long time now. She has not published the piece. I don't know if she's going to. And I'm hoping that maybe that was partially due to our conversation. And hopefully I was able to get through to her a little bit and kind of look at this in a whole new way. A lot of the questions were about my personal experience, but there were a few that I want to share with you guys now that I'm pretty sure that she's not going to be using them. Okay, so one of the questions is, do you think your autism diagnosis limits you? I said, no, it doesn't limit me because I was already limited. What a diagnosis has done, it has helped me let go of unrealistic expectations and is saving me from the burnout of constantly trying to be and do something that I'm not. Now, initially, acceptance of what is can feel limiting until you realize that you never actually truly had those abilities to begin with. This question was, would I have preferred to have been diagnosed early? Absolutely. There's not a lot of resources for adults my age, but there are a lot of resources for kids in school. Having an IEP or access to social and occupational therapy and my peers, family, and teacher understanding my behavior would have prevented a lot of the trauma that I'm having to work through today. Labels only enable if you let them, but they also hold the keys to accessing all of the tools that you need. Another question is, with the rise of adult diagnosis on social media, some clinicians are concerned about autism overdiagnosis. Do you think that is a valid concern? Why or why not? And I will say this over and over again and shout it from the mountaintops with my full chest. I am much, much more concerned about autism underdiagnosis. I am one of the lucky ones where my faith community at a very early age gave me relationships and meaning. So many undiagnosed autistic and ADHD people experience depression, self-harm, relationship issues, employment issues, substance abuse, isolation, and they go their whole lives never knowing why. They believe, like I did for most of my life, that they're stupid or lazy. And having answers is the first place to start making the best of your life and actually have a chance at thriving. Now, this is a really great question. Some parents of autistic children are upset about the neurodivergent movement, thinking it glamorizes traits that cause significant difficulties in later life. What is your opinion on this? Do you think autism has been glamorized? Now, this is one of those instances where my personal opinion diverges greatly from what the autism community at large believes about this issue. I've talked about it on this app before, and I'll say it again. I think we need to be differentiating in levels of support needs when we talk about this, which is one of the reasons why I have started lately saying level 1 autism or L1 autism in my videos when I'm sharing my personal story. There's a lot of disagreement on that. That is definitely a hot take. I think in not making that distinction, what it does is it pits high support needs and low support needs people against each other. And we shouldn't be doing that. We should be championing each other and advocating for one another. But it's hard to do when all the popular talk on social media revolves around the level 1 experience. And we begin to educate the masses on what that means, but we only say autism, and the experiences and needs of parents of high support needs kiddos start to get misunderstood and dismissed. And we know what that feels like because for the longest time, that was the only conversation around autism. Our experiences and needs were getting dismissed. And knowing what that's like, why would we want to do that to someone else? So I'm one of the people that does think that we need to differentiate when we're having this conversation and be really, really mindful not to leave out the high support needs demographic in the autism community. It's really important not to dismiss challenges of caretakers who are experiencing obstacles that we are never going to face. But, it's really important to understand that the humor and the lightheartedness on social media, where quirks or social mishaps are coping mechanisms used to heal from the trauma that a lot of us are working through. There is nothing glamorous about the relationships lost, dreams that are inaccessible, the limitations, the constant anxiety, the therapy bills, the darker side that a lot of us don't share on social media. There's nothing glamorous about that. Anyway, it ended up being a really good conversation. I walked away feeling very good, hopefully having been able to change someone's perspective and understand this growing diagnosis a little better.